Happy Monday! How is everyone doing? Let's see here. Okay, all right. How are you all doing this Monday? We're winding down July. I just need to get something else set here. Let's see. I'm going to do an Instagram live as well. I feel like this is a really important topic, so I'm trying to set up my Facebook Live and my Instagram Live to reach as many people as I can on forgiveness and self-talk. I know that forgiveness is something can't really seem to go anywhere without hearing people speak about how they struggle with it. So I feel this is an important topic to share. Let's see if I'm doing this right. All right. So, all right. Hello. Hello. Happy Monday, everyone on Instagram as well. So, normally I just do this live in this private Facebook group for you all, but you know, forgiveness is a topic. It's something that I have struggled with. It's not always obvious. Um, you know, even when we are not forgiving of ourselves or someone else. So that's actually what I want to talk about. Sometimes we think we're in an okay place with ourselves, or we think that we're in an okay place with someone else, and we don't actually realize that we're having a little bit, maybe, of a grudge that we're holding. Hi, Angelica. Um, and we don't even realize that we're holding a grudge against ourselves. So that's what I want to bring awareness to you guys about this evening. What I realized was, hi, Harvey. What I realized in my own self journey was that the way I spoke about myself had a lot to do with my ability to love myself, as well as my ability to forgive myself. Um, if we can't forgive ourselves, it's going to be really hard for us to forgive someone else. So that's why this is titled Self Talk. All right. And so I want us to. Oh, hey, Nicole. How are you doing? So I want to. Hello, Keyshawn. So I want to just talk about first about the power of words. So I want you guys to think of words as like a battery, okay? Like it's an emotional charge. You know those, I don't know, I don't have a TV anymore, but back in the day they used to have these Energizer bunny commercials where this like little pink rabbit was banging a drum and it was like he just keeps going and going and going. Our words are like that. They're kind of like an Energizer bunny. They just kind of keep us going and going and going in a certain direction. And we want to make sure that the words that we're speaking to ourselves get us moving in a direction where we're able to forgive ourselves as well as to also be able to forgive others, because these words that are either coming into our minds and we're replaying, or the words that we're actually speaking out loud about ourselves, you know, those are like kind of charging and powering us in the way that we're going. And so that's how I want to just, you know, get you guys thinking about like this emotional charge of our words. So here's a couple things, actually a few points that I want you guys to think about in terms of your own self-talk. I was just talking, I'm going to post the interview soon. I had a really interesting self-love conversation with someone recently, and she used the word self-friend. All right. So, and I loved it, and I told her I was going to use it. So when you speak to yourself or about yourself, are you your own self friend? Okay? Because if we're not our own self friends, how are we going to forgive ourselves, much less someone else? So let's think about the times when you have made a mistake. Okay. Now, you may make a mistake and you may be like, oh shit, or like, what? That's like messed up. You may say whatever. But when you make a mistake, is there in those comments, are you saying words like, I'm so stupid, I can't believe I did that? I know I'm guilty of this. Um, like, that was like a bad idea. And sometimes it's a bad idea. And I'm not saying it's not, it's wrong to not acknowledge when we make a mistake and have a bad idea. But I'm speaking about like, what words do we use? How do we talk to ourselves respectfully? When we make a mistake. So just, I don't know how you speak to yourself. I don't know how you're your own self friend, but, think about the times, and just even in the coming week, just think about the times when you goof up, when you make a mistake, when like maybe you turn left when you should have turned right, or and you're driving, or maybe, I don't know, you made some sort of error somewhere. Like, what words come to mind? What words do you say out loud to yourself? The next thing that I want you to think about in terms of how you are your own self friend and the energy charge that you're giving yourself is when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, what's the first thing you say? What's the first thing you think? Are you like, hello, beautiful? Trust me, it's not always the first thing that comes to my mind. Sometimes I'm like, ugh, right? But this is not really, would I talk to a friend like that? Would I, call up my best friend and like look at her and be like, you look like a hot mess, like you just woke up on the wrong side of bed? No, I would not say that to my best friend. Why would I say that to myself? Why would I begin powering my day with, those negative words? So it's not really necessarily intuitive. We don't naturally, wake up and be like, oh, my morning breath smells wonderful. I'm not telling you to lie to yourselves or anything, but just be mindful of the first words that come to mind when you look in the mirror in the morning. All right. Now, here's another question to think about in terms of your self-talk. And this actually is a key on whether or not you have forgiveness issues against yourself, I believe. When you try something new, what is the first thing that you think about? Okay? Do you automatically start thinking about all the times that everything else you've done failed? That means that's like an indication, at least to me, when I start doing that I haven't forgiven myself for a past mistake, that I have not forgiven myself when something that I tried didn't work out as planned. That means to me that if I am saying, oh, well, here I go again, I'm trying something new, that I still have some sort of hang up about, the past. So think about, just when you start something new, what emotions are you feeling? Are you excited? Is it more like a dreadful, like you dread it? Are you more anxious? Are you at peace about it? What words do you say to yourself, and what emotions are you thinking when you start something new? Okay, are you like, I got this? Okay, I'm nervous, and it's okay to be nervous. I'm not saying it, like, kind of, there is, it would be weird if we all walked into situations, feeling confident, like, and like we have everything under control. So I'm not talking about having some sort of like superiority complex, or nervousness is normal. It's natural when you start something new. Being a little unsure or uncertain how something's going to go. Of course, these are like all things, it's wise to think about like, well, what could possibly go wrong, and to like kind of, possibly troubleshoot and plan in different ways how, what might happen or might not happen. Yes, Keyshawn, self-talk is important because you can motivate yourself. It is a very powerful thing. Yes. So I'm not saying I love it, Keyshawn. That's like so wise. Um, I'm not saying that, you should just go into it feeling like you've got everything all wrapped up and whatever. But are you speaking life into yourself? Are you speaking, as Keyshawn said, like powerful words? Like, what words are you using to energize yourself to move forward and to start on whatever this new endeavor is? Like, okay, like, are you remembering what you did before and were successful at before? Okay, well, this is a little challenging, I'm a little nervous, but, I did X, Y, or Z in the past and I learned and I succeeded. So, I can do this too. What words are you saying to yourself? All right. Similarly, another thing I want to speak on in terms of self talk and forgiveness is when you go into a social event, what words are you thinking? What words come to mind? What emotions are you feeling? Again, you, especially if you go to like a big event and maybe you know no one, of course you're going to be a little nervous, but are you going in and feeling like you might be rejected automatically? Are you, being very negative? Or are you like, okay, well, I like how I look in this dress? Are you complimenting yourself and like giving yourself that, those positive, energizing words, those positive emotional charges into your life before you walk into that situation? So that could also be whether it was like a big social event, or it could be something simple like a date, like a first date with someone. Whatever it happens to be, like what are those words that are going through your mind? Are you remembering like, okay, well, if I don't know what to do, I'll just smile and, like, and I'll be fine. Like, are those the things you're saying to yourself? Or are you like really kind of freaking out? You want to make sure that you're charging yourself to head into um, that social situation, that meet up with a friend or a date or a party, whatever it is, family reunion, expecting to have a good time. All right. And very, very similar to this, last uh, last point that I wanted to make is, what words are you saying to yourself when you meet someone new? Okay, it could be not even anything significant. It could be I live in New York, right? So I'm on the subway and I just see someone new and they are looking at me, and this happens. Like, what do? Do I smile back at the person? Do I make eye contact, or do I look away and be like, well, what's wrong with me? Why are they looking at me? Or do I think, oh, maybe they're like being friendly? It doesn't have to be like a super intense meetup with someone. It could be just like a stranger on the street, like I said. But when you meet someone new, what are the words, what are the thoughts that are going through your brain? And it, again, if you are starting to have negative feelings, like, oh, this person must be looking on me at me on the train because I am whatever, like whatever, fill in the blank with a negative word. That's kind of a sign that you are not really in a place of self-love, that possibly you are carrying guilt or you're carrying resentment towards yourself for a time when you had wanted to be accepted in a relationship. And so just being, paying attention to this kind of self-talk that we have about ourselves helps us to know whether or not we've forgiven ourselves for those times. Hey, how are you? Bald handsome 17. So just just thinking about, what words come to mind when you meet that new person. If they're going in a negative direction and you're feeling fear or fear of rejection or whatever, It's letting you know that there's something in your past that you have not acknowledged possibly, or that you've not possibly forgiven. Like maybe you've blamed yourself wrongly. We're not all responsible. I thought I waved. Maybe I didn't. Maybe you're holding yourself responsible for someone not liking you, and it doesn't even matter with whether someone liked you or not, right? We're not responsible for how other people feel about us unless we're being like intentionally mean to them, of course. But like we just show up and be our best selves, right? And then the rest is on the other person. It's not our responsibility to be liked. But if we're always thinking about that or worried about it, it could be a sign that you haven't forgiven yourself for, things that you feel are flaws about you. And so there's one more that I wanted to talk to, one more point. Words you tell yourself when you're working on a project. It could be whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an employee, but if you start a new project at work or in your business, whether it's independently or collaboratively, what words are you saying to yourself? What's your self-talk like? So again, remembering that words are emotional charges, like what direction are your thoughts propelling you in your business relationships, in your work relationships, and even in like how you see yourself being able to complete a project. I remember that I don't know why I'm thinking about this. I remember in 8th grade, I had to type up this paper, and I had trouble with a computer, and it was like I went to school in the 80s, right? So computers weren't really that, I wasn't really used to a computer yet, right? As a result, I kind of like developed this fear of computers, right? And it took me into college. Like I went and I avoided computers for a long time. I just didn't use them at all because of my fear. And I thought like I wasn't, smart enough to use a computer. Okay, I still am a little technologically, it's still a little bit of a challenge for me, right? But I'm okay with it now, right? I'm trying things. I'm not like avoiding them, right? And that was the opposite of what I did for like quite a few years, which was like kind of avoiding things, right? So I hadn't really, I thought I wasn't good enough or smart enough, right? So I had to learn how to forgive myself for not knowing what to do with this computer when I was a kid. And I know it seems minor, but these are a lot of times minor things, and they add up. So again, also talking about like going back to the idea of being your self-friend, how would your friend talk to you about a project or a relationship or a new situation, or when they look at you? All of these things that we've just discussed. How would a friend speak to you? And if you're not speaking to yourself in the same way that you would expect a friend to speak to you, it's definitely something that you want to think about. Like, why am I not speaking more kindly to myself? What's triggering me with this? And you don't have to like, sit around all day. You could take a walk and just kind of think about it, or drive and just think about it. It's not like you have to sit around and stew about this topic all day, but just be aware throughout the day, what kinds of words you're saying to yourself, how you're thinking about yourself, and pay attention to like which direction these thoughts are pushing you in. Are they pushing you into like feeling, smaller, or are they pushing you into feeling more comfortable and confident and empowering you? So those were some thoughts that I wanted to share this evening on forgiveness and self-talk. Our self-talk does definitely impact our ability to love ourselves. If we cannot love ourselves properly, we are also not going to be able to forgive ourselves when we do mess up. And that's the thing. We are humans. We are all flawed. It is inevitable. We're all going to make a mistake. And some days we are going to make real faux pas. And that's okay. It's part of the human experience. But Are we going to forgive ourselves, or are we going to move on? And to know whether or not you're really moving in a direction of self-forgiveness, then these are some things to think over. And again, I can't express it enough. Like, if we can't treat ourselves right, if we can't do right by ourselves, how are we really going to be able to give to someone else and extend that forgiveness? So really, forgiveness does begin with ourselves. Our ways of speaking to other people also begins with our own self-talk. And so I'm going to be back again next Monday. I plan on doing another, Lord willing, another conversation about forgiveness, but from a different perspective. And so if anyone has any questions, as always, you guys are welcome to, drop in the comments a question or comment. And healing journeys, like I always say, are always personal and sometimes private. And so you're also welcome to just shoot me a DM. I do have a program that if anyone needs support, like really needs to work on forgiveness, and they're really stuck in a rut and they just can't release things, I'm happy to work with you. You can message me and I can share info with you about that. But just be your own self friends, be kind to yourself, and just pay attention to your words, your thoughts, and in which direction, what emotional charges they're giving you, in which direction they're sending you. All right. So have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you guys all next Monday. All right. Peace. Let's see.
I know.